When I first told my friends I was starting my own candle business, they laughed. Not in a cruel way at first, more like the polite laughter people give when they don't think you're serious. We were sitting at Olivia's kitchen table, surrounded by takeout boxes and wine glasses. They were talking about promotions, corporate salaries, and weekend getaways. When it was my turn to share what's new, I said it proudly. I've decided to start something of my own. A handmade candle line. All natural. Locally sourced. The silence that followed could have swallowed me whole. Then Olivia smirked. That's cute. Like Etsy cute. Lena giggled. You're leaving your job for candles? Girl, you're going to burn out faster than your products. Even James, who used to be my closest friend, raised an eyebrow. You really think you can live off that? You've got rent, car payments. This isn't a hobby market. I tried to laugh it off, but the truth stung. Because deep down, I was scared. I had just quit a stable job in corporate marketing. My savings weren't much. My apartment smelled like melted wax and lavender oil because I'd been testing blends non-stop. My hands were burned from experimenting with wicks and ratios. But every night, when the city went quiet, I'd light one of my candles, and something about that soft, steady flame whispered, "Keep going." So, I did. At first, it was slow. Sales trickled in through my tiny Instagram page, a few strangers, a couple of curious neighbors. I packed each order by hand, wrote thank you notes, and prayed the postage wouldn't eat my profit. Meanwhile, my friends' laughter turned to whispers. Still playing entrepreneur? They'd joke in our group chat. I stopped replying after a while. One evening, I passed by a boutique that sold locally made goods. I walked in, hands trembling, and asked the owner if she'd consider carrying my candles. She sniffed one, smiled, and said, "These are amazing. I'll take 20. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed up crying, not out of sadness, but relief. For the first time, someone believed in what I made. And for the next 2 years, I worked like I was making up for every laugh, every doubt, every sarcastic comment. What none of my friends knew was that the little Etsy candle hobby, they mocked, was about to light a fire that would change everything. Because soon, I wouldn't just be making candles. I'd be building an empire they'd all come knocking on. 2 years into my so-called little candle dream, my apartment looked more like a factory than a home. Boxes lined the hallway, labels cluttered the counter, and my living room smelled like vanilla, cedarwood, and exhaustion. I still packed every order myself, sealing each box with a piece of gold tape that read, "Hand-poured with hope." One Friday afternoon, I was restocking supplies when an email popped up on my phone. Subject, Wholesale Inquiry, Bulk Order Request. At first, I thought it was spam. But when I opened it, my heart stopped. It was from Harbor and Hearth, a luxury home decor chain with stores in 6 states. They wanted to test order 1,000 candles for their Summer Serenity campaign. I sat down right there on the floor, surrounded by half-filled jars, and started crying. All the years of laughter, the mockery, the doubt, it all came rushing back like a storm. But this time, I wasn't breaking. I was rising. That night, I called the one person who'd always quietly supported me, my mom. "Mom," I said, voice shaking, "I just got my first big order." She gasped, then whispered, "I told you, baby." They laughed because they were scared you'd make it. The next few weeks were chaos. I hired 2 part-time helpers from the local community center, turned my garage into a production studio, and barely slept. Every candle had to be perfect. When the first batch shipped, I stared at the boxes leaving my driveway and thought, this is the moment they'll remember me for. And I was right. 3 months later, Harbor and Hearth renewed their order, this time for 5,000 units. My brand, Luma Bloom, went from a small Instagram shop to trending on TikTok under hashtag #ShopSmallLuxury. Influencers were unboxing my candles with captions like, "Small brand, big quality." I upgraded from a 1-bedroom apartment to a real workspace. Hired a team. Built a website that crashed twice in a week from too much traffic. But the real spark came when a local news channel called me for an interview. From kitchen table to nationwide, the headline read, The video went viral overnight. And suddenly, the same friends who once laughed at me were back in my DMs. Wow, girl, you did it. So proud of you. Remember us when you're famous. Even Olivia, the one who called me Etsy cute, commented on my post. Always knew you had it in you, Redheart. I smiled, took a deep breath, and replied simply, thank you. Because revenge doesn't need noise, it just needs numbers. But fate wasn't done with me yet. Because a year later, one of those friends would walk into my new office, asking me for a job. The morning started like any other, sunlight pouring through the glass windows of my new downtown studio, the faint hum of printers labeling candle jars, and the scent of sandalwood drifting through the air. Luma Bloom wasn't just a brand anymore, it was a movement. We were in 5 retail chains, partnering with wellness influencers, and gearing up for our biggest holiday launch yet. I'd gone from hand-pouring wax at 3 a.m. to managing a full staff of 16. And then the universe decided to make things poetic. Maya? My receptionist whispered, peeking through the doorway. There's someone here to see you. Says she's an old friend. I looked up. What's her name? She hesitated. Olivia. From high school, I think. My pen froze. Olivia. The one who laughed the loudest that night around the kitchen table. The one who'd said, you'll burn out faster than your candles. Send her in, I said quietly. She walked in wearing a sharp blazer and forced confidence. But her eyes gave her away, tired, unsure, desperate. Maya. Oh my God, look at this place, she said, spinning slowly. You've built a whole empire. I smiled. It's been a long few years. She sat down across from me, fidgeting with her handbag. So, I'll get right to it. I was laid off last month. Marketing downsizing. You know how brutal the industry is right now. I nodded slowly. I do. She leaned forward. And honestly, I've been following your company. The branding, the social media presence, it's amazing. I was wondering if you had any openings. The air went still. I studied her, the same woman who once smirked when I shared my dream, now asking for a place inside it. Interesting, I said. You always had a strong opinion about my candles. Her face reddened. Maya, that was years ago. I didn't mean. I raised a hand. It's okay. People change. So do circumstances. She exhaled in relief. So, does that mean? I'll think about it, I said, standing. We'll contact you if there's a fit. She smiled nervously, clearly unsure what that meant. Thank you, really. It would mean the world. After she left, I stared at her resume on my desk. It was solid, corporate background, decent achievements. But what caught my eye was the last line of her cover letter. I've learned that every brand starts small, and that humility is the foundation of growth. It made me pause. Because maybe, just maybe, she'd finally learned something I had to burn for. That night, I went home, poured myself a glass of wine, and thought about how strange life could be. They laughed at me for starting small. Now, they needed me to start again. And what came next would be the hardest decision of all, not whether to hire Olivia, but whether to forgive her. Because success gives you power. But what you do with that power defines your legacy. A week passed before I made my decision. I'd spent nights replaying old memories, the laughter, the judgment, the way Olivia's words once pierced my confidence. But now, those same memories felt like background noise. I wasn't that fragile girl anymore. I was the woman they said would fail, running the very kind of company that used to reject me. So, when my HR manager came in with a stack of applications, I slid Olivia's resume to the top and said, hire her. Let's see if she can keep up. Her first day at Luma Bloom was almost cinematic. She walked in with that nervous smile people wear when they're trying too hard to act confident. My staff, the same people who'd watched me grow from the ground up, whispered quietly when I introduced her. This is Olivia, I said simply. She'll be working under the marketing division. Her eyes flicked up, meeting mine. There was gratitude there, and something else, guilt. The first few weeks were awkward. She'd fumble around team meetings, trying to prove herself. I never humiliated her, not once, but I didn't make it easy either. She earned every ounce of responsibility. One afternoon, I overheard two interns whispering, "Isn't that the friend who made fun of Maya's candles?" Olivia froze, her face turning pale. I pretended not to notice, but deep down, I wondered if this was the universe teaching her in silence what I once learned through pain. Still, I didn't want revenge. I wanted balance. One day, we were reviewing a campaign proposal, a nationwide Mother's Day feature with a major retailer. Olivia's draft presentation was good, not great. I stayed quiet, then turned to my creative director. "Let's open the floor," I said. "Any improvements?" A junior designer, barely 23, suggested a change that transformed the whole idea. Olivia's pride cracked for a moment, but then, to my surprise, she nodded. "That's actually better," she admitted. Something inside me shifted. That wasn't the woman who laughed at me. That was someone who'd finally learned how to listen. When the campaign went live, it broke every record we'd set before. Sales tripled in a week. Social media exploded. And when our investor team congratulated marketing, Olivia looked at me across the conference table, not with envy, but respect. After the meeting, she stopped by my office. "You didn't have to give me a chance," she said quietly. "After what I said back then." I leaned back in my chair, a small smile playing on my lips. "You didn't give me one either," I said. "Guess we're even now." She nodded slowly. "You could have humiliated me, Maya. But you didn't." "Because I remember how that feels," I said. "And I promised myself I'd never become what I hated." She blinked away tears. "I don't deserve this job." I shook my head. "You deserve the lesson. What you do with it, that's up to you." When she left, I sat alone, staring at the framed photo on my wall. My first candle order, back when the world thought I was crazy. And I realized something powerful. Success isn't payback. It's peace with proof attached. But fate wasn't done yet. Because the next call I'd receive would prove just how much my light had grown. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when the call came in. My assistant peeked through the office door, holding her phone like it was something sacred. "Maya," she said softly, "you might want to take this. It's from Lumina Group." I froze. Lumina Group, the same corporate giant where most of my old classmates worked, the same company that used to sponsor college competitions I could never afford to enter. The same name printed across Olivia's old email signature when she mocked my dream. I took the call. "Ms. Patel," a crisp voice said, "we're interested in discussing a potential acquisition of your brand. We believe LumaBloom's authenticity and market traction could perfectly complement our portfolio." I almost laughed. 5 years ago, they wouldn't even glance at me. Now, they wanted to buy me. I stayed calm. "I'm open to a meeting," I said. "But I'm not selling cheap." 2 weeks later, I walked into Lumina's glass tower, the same kind of building that once intimidated me. This time, the receptionist stood to greet me, offering coffee, ushering me to the executive floor like royalty. And when the boardroom doors opened, my heart stopped for half a second. At the far end of the table sat Rachel Grant, my former college mentor, the woman who once told me, "Maya, you have passion, but passion doesn't pay bills." She blinked in surprise. "You're the founder of LumaBloom?" "Yes," I said, smiling. "The one your company wants to acquire." The silence that followed was delicious. For 2 hours, we discussed numbers, margins, expansions, all the things they once said were beyond my reach. When they finally offered their bid, I leaned forward and said calmly, "I appreciate the offer, but I'm not selling. Not yet. What I want is partnership, on my terms." Rachel blinked. "You're declining a multi-million-dollar acquisition?" I smiled. I didn't build this company to hand it over. I built it to prove that no one owns your value unless you sell it to them. When the meeting ended, I walked out to applause from my small team who'd come along for support. I looked around at the building, at the glass walls that once represented everything I thought I couldn't reach, and I realized something profound. I didn't need validation anymore. I was the validation. Months later, Luma Bloom became a national brand, stocked in department stores across the country. We opened our first flagship boutique, warm lights, clean wood, soft music, and the smell of home in every corner. During the grand opening, I stood near the entrance, shaking hands and thanking guests when I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was Olivia. She was holding a candle, the one she'd helped design for the Mother's Day campaign. Her eyes shimmered. I just wanted to say, thank you, for giving me a second chance. You didn't have to. I smiled. Neither did you, but you earned it. She laughed quietly. You always were the better one, Maya. No, I said gently. I just stopped trying to prove my worth to people who couldn't see it. As she walked away, a young girl approached me, maybe 19, nervous, holding a notebook. Ms. Patel? I'm starting my own candle shop from home. Everyone says it's impossible, but your story. I interrupted with a smile. If they laugh, you're probably doing something right. Keep going. That night, after the last guest left, I stood alone under the soft golden lights of my store. The shelves gleamed, the air smelled of success, not loud or proud, but earned. I thought of every laugh, every rejection, every person who told me I was chasing nothing. And I whispered to myself, the same way I did years ago over melted wax and broken dreams. They laughed at my small business. Now I fund theirs. And somewhere deep down I knew, the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's becoming the reason they believe again.